It'd basically be a tarp on you anyway. Red.
Beep, boop, bop, beep, 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 beep. What is that? Why have I been doing that?
Stop it!
Yep.
Red circle. Thank you. Let me get that out.
Boop.
I don't know. You just keep making robot noises.
I've always
for some
done
reason.
that. I've always done that. I think it started off as like where you were pretending you were on a phone, like beep boop bop beep, and then it turned into beep boop beep 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 boop boop beep 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 beep.
You just like making noises.
I do.
Yeah.
I have recognized. You must hear me downstairs. I know this is an ongoing gag, but you must hear me downstairs just talking to myself. Well, talking to like podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
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 How does that make you feel?
Yeah. I don't know very many people that speak as they laugh like you do.
I'm like, ooh, he did it.
Well, no, just the way you laugh. Like the way that they write it out on a piece of paper. You go, ha, ha, ha.
Laugh here. I'm an odd bird.
Yeah, I know. Yes,
Yeah.
you are. And I have empathy for you, which is the theme.
Oh, are we doing the show?
Of today's episode.
Hey!
That is correct. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have another Kook Alert for you.
I thought we were warming up. I'm so embarrassed.
No, I don't think we've ever warmed up during a Kook Alert
Strike that
before.
from the record. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome.
And today, we are going to be discussing empathy. Empathy, Ryan. What do you know about empathy?
Empathy is a buzzword right now. It is all the rage. The kids love it. Empathy is where you can feel something for someone else that you've never actually experienced. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. The definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, and not to be confused with sympathy.
Right, that's the thing.
Which is feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune.
Wait, before we do this, I think that I have to do, just to keep some continuity.
Kook Alert. Kook Alert.
I had completely forgotten.
It's okay.
Thank you.
That's it. We're both here.
Yeah, the difference being sympathy is something happened to you and I feel bad for you. When somebody loses a house in a California wildfire, something that I have never been through before, I feel pity and sorrow for that person. I don't know what it's like to go through what you're going through, but it sounds terrible.
That is sympathy.
That is sympathy.
Okay.
Empathy.
I genuinely get these things confused.
Yeah, that's okay. Empathy is when somebody says, I am in the pits of despair and depression right now. I say, I can empathize with you. I've been there many times in my life. I know what it's like to feel those feelings.
Oh, so then I said it wrong then. I got it wrong here at the top of the show.
What do you mean?
Empathy is I've experienced what you've experienced, and so I know how you feel.
Exactly. I understand your feelings.
I guess maybe I had those confused. I guess maybe I thought what you just described sympathy is, where I've never experienced this, but I do understand where you're coming from. That's sympathy.
That is sympathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Although it is difficult to, you're kind of confusing both statements because you don't know where the person's coming from. You just understand that they're going through a hard time, but you don't know what that experience is like.
Okay. So is empathy something that is dying in our world?
No, I don't think so. I think we're seeing more and more of the immoralities because of the conversation we have all the time, technology. But people have been immoral for a very long time.
I feel like we're really putting a fine point on it, though.
Yeah, we are honing it like the tip of a spear.
It's all about 10,000 hours, you become a master.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or 10,000 years in our society's case. The thing is that empathy is around. It's everywhere. Just nobody talks about it because that's not headline material.
Doesn't get the clicks.
Exactly. Nobody's banging empathy. Nobody's having sex with empathy. People want to see sex. People want to see violence.
And we change that here today, Tyler.
That's right. We're going to fuck you with empathy.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. That might have been a little harsh.
That was extreme. We'll definitely cut that.
We're going to make love to you with empathy.
So describe empathy to me, because I believe, and again, now I'm a little on the rocks here because I'm not sure. Oh, something happened to my voice. I'm not sure.
You getting choked up?
I'm getting a little choked up. I have empathy for myself here. I'm a little worried because I think that maybe I don't fully understand. How is empathy beneficial?
Being able to put yourself in another person's shoes and understand it. First of all, it helps us with our own emotions, because think about the times, like, imagine you just got done cutting somebody off in traffic. which is a dick
Done.
thing, which is a dick thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
And then somebody does it to you immediately after. It's still annoying, but you just have that thought of, man, how can I get too angry? I just did it to that guy back there.
Very few people do what you just described.
Okay, maybe cutting off is a bad example.
But I think the larger point is, I think very often when somebody that is not us makes a mistake, we grade them on what it is that they did. When we make, let's say, the exact same mistake, we grade ourselves on what our ideas were, how this all came to be. I'm not a bad guy. I didn't see him coming. Maybe the person who cut you off had the exact same experience, but very rarely do we think about it that way.
Sure, but you also don't have to go to anger to understand empathy. It could be embarrassment as well. Take an arbitrary example, like when you're sitting in a restaurant and somebody has food that has just been dropped on them and everybody laughs and that person's incredibly embarrassed. You think back to the time that happened to you,
Sure.
and you think, man, I don't want to laugh at this person. I felt like shit when that happened to me. That is empathy.
I can get secondhand embarrassed for people at times where they're not even embarrassed. I have a real issue with that.
Yeah, but that's something different. And let's not open that can of worms.
Can we jump into that? Because I would love to end that right now.
We're not here to solve your moral dilemmas, Ryan.
Well, then what are we doing?
We're helping other people.
I have no empathy for that. Okay, so that is very helpful. Empathy, the way that you're describing it, is something that I'm really working on because not only do I think it would be beneficial for me, I think it's what makes the world a better place.
Of course it does. Empathy is the quintessential emotion to have when it comes to making the world a better place. And the most difficult levels of empathy, or sympathy for that matter, is when somebody is doing something directly to you. And we want to get angry. We want to defend ourselves. But to have empathy in those moments and forgive is such a challenge.
Also not real. I will say
Forgiveness? Empathy? Which aspect of that are you referencing?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think that is a very beneficial thing in terms of, and it's hard to find the tipping point here. I love and have always loved true crime, okay? There is this balance point between...
He loves true crime. He loves...
I don't even want to say what I got. Charles Manson, not a great dude. We would agree with that, yes?
Yeah, he really just should have stuck with the music and the drugs.
Yeah.
He would have been moderately happy there.
Keep pumping in those belladonnas and you're going to be just fine. But the fact of the matter is, not a good dude. Universally, people think of Charles Manson in, I would say, a negative way. If you go back far enough on any of these monsters, his mother gave him up for a pitcher of beer. He got sent to a boys' home where he was sodomized and made to eat poop.
Yeah.
Amongst a myriad of terrible things. Hurt people hurt people. So when there's somebody in your life that is doing something to you, if you could trace it back to like, wow, this person probably went through some really crazy shit, and that's why they're behaving in this way, it's very beneficial. Also, very hard to do when you feel attacked.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the understanding comes into play, where we acknowledge what this person did was monstrous. One of my favorite examples when it comes to this conversation is Ed Gein. Ed Gein, gigantic man, did terrible things to young women, but then you look at his past, and his mother was locking him in the basement, literally in the cellar of the house.
It's called discipline.
23 hours out of the day.
You're thinking of Edmund Kemper.
I'm thinking of Kemper.
I was going to say,
Ed, sorry.
Gein.
Ed Gein skinned his mother, or skinned people alive and then made...
Well, he only killed one. We don't have to lapse into a true crime show, but he only killed one person. He would dig up bodies and stuff like that. When the police got there, he had a lampshade made of human skin.
I meant Kemper, Ed Kemper. And he kept he was kept in the basement for 23 hours out of the day.
So that he wouldn't rape his sisters. That's the thought process his mom had.
Agreed. And every time he was near his sister, she would immediately start attacking him. Get away from her. What do you think that does to a person? Again, what he did was monstrous as an adult, but I also understand why he turned out the way that he did.
How you ended up there. It reminds me of a pit bull. Pit bulls are regarded as these monstrous dogs. They are going to become whatever, short of a chemical imbalance. If you want your pit bull to be loving, you can teach it that. If you want it to maul people, you can teach it that. You know?
How do I teach it to maul loving people?
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to call Caesar Milan. We're gonna have to worry about this. He just passes all the KKK members and goes into a nursery.
Caesar, this is a special case. You're gonna need to bring your bag.
Yeah, well, bring a hard hat. Yeah, it is this idea of we are all products of our environment, even the worst of us.
Now, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but where do you find in your own personal life the most difficult time to show or feel empathy for another?
I think empathy, before I answer that, is empathy a learned behavior?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is empathy inherent, or is it something that we have to train in ourselves, or is it like almost everything, both of those things?
I think it's both of those things. I think the feeling of feeling bad for another is inherent to us.
Yes.
I think how we act on it and how we think about it is a trained and learned behavior.
That was a very wise sentence. I wish I had said that.
Next time I'll ask you.
We can edit that, right? We can fix that. We sound enough like. So for me, what I would say is when my insecurities are triggered, which is all the time, and I'm feeling defensive, if I feel like somebody is coming after me, which generally is just thoughts in my own mind, that is where it's hard for me to show empathy to someone. When I believe that I am being attacked, very often, and I'm using the word attacked in just a disposable way.
Yeah.
Often when I remove myself from that situation and I let my ego drop, it only takes about 3 or 4 weeks. That is where I have trouble being like, man, maybe this person has had a tough day. You know, there was a situation in our family that'll go unnamed very recently where I clapped back at somebody in a way that I haven't in a very long time. I did not find any empathy there. I just shot back. I even slept on it.
Yeah.
I slept on it and then I shot back in a way that maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, first of all, really surprised by your use of the term clap back.
Yeah.
Never heard you use that before in my life.
Thank you.
Never.
I believe that at the moment is on fleek.
Really? You're really broadening your horizons, and I feel empathy for you.
I'm deeply embarrassed. Let's make you say that in post.
And the releasing of anger can be so difficult, which is kind of one of the key steps into feeling empathetic. It's really hard to be empathetic when you're filled with anger towards the person.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
Possible,
right.
but difficult.
And learning to filter it through the prism of what is this person growing through right now? You know what I mean? It's the basis of all of these like spiritual texts and these things that have been around for thousands of years. And also it's so hard to put in your own life.
Yeah. And it also stems from understanding why you react to these things that way, which is why we call them triggers. These things happen and they set off like a hair trigger. They set off these rage, these anger, these embarrassment, this shame in us. And then
these patterns that we've established over time.
That's exactly right. But learned the majority of, if not all of them, when we were young. We learned these behaviors. We were taught these behaviors by adults, by our parents, by our siblings.
Don't stand for that. Don't let people push you around. Don't,
when you're 5.
Exactly right.
If
and it is a very hard thing to acknowledge because very rarely do people say, hey, I'm going to teach my son to be defensive today. I'm going to teach my son to find issue where there is none just to make sure that he's never taken advantage of.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's very much like when a parent says, my kid doesn't have privacy around the house. If I want to go into his room, I'm going to go into his room.
Locked doors.
If I want to go in and look through his stuff, I'm the parent, I'm allowed. And it's like, dude, you're teaching them to abuse other people's privacy when you do that.
So let me ask you something. So then, because I learn a lot of these things through you and then pretend like I knew it the whole time.
Good strategy.
Could that be, I knew that. Could that be the same thing for like, let's say, and maybe I'm putting this in a place where it doesn't belong, so correct me if I am, like spanking. Like, hey, you did the wrong thing. Now I'm going to hit you. Are you teaching your kids? Maybe this has nothing to do with empathy. I'm scared as I'm saying it. This is how we handle our problems. Is that in the same realm?
Yeah. I don't know about empathy. Well, it falls under empathy, but the people who spank, my guess would be 99.99% of the time are people who were spanked when they were kids.
Interesting.
It's behavior that you learned when you were younger, and now, hey, it was good enough for my parents, it's good enough for me.
What do you think about spanking? Kids, not...
Oh, good clarification, because I have empathy for both. I'm not for it.
I think that's called sympathy.
I'm not for it. I don't think there's a reason to strike your kid, very much like a pet. You don't need to hit your dog or your cat to teach them a lesson. I feel the same way about kids. You don't need to hit your kid. And I understand, of course, there are different levels of spanking. There are people who put their kid over their knee and they give them a pat on the bottom and it's, hey, don't do that again.
It's the idea of instilling fear. It's the build up to it. It's not the pain of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there are people who literally beat their children. So there are different levels. I'm not saying those of you out there who spank your kids, you're monsters.
I'm saying that.
Although some of you are.
I'm saying that.
But yeah, that's exactly right. Instead of ruling through fear, which is what that is, as you just stated, it's the idea that I could be spanked.
Yeah.
It's I don't even want to use the word ruling. It's a understanding through respect, where it's, hey, I have set these rules down in this house, and if you don't abide by them, there will be consequences. I don't feel like one of them needs to be, I'm going to raise my hand to you.
I think we're seeing less and less of that as time goes on because we're recognizing, and very often that's done in anger, and we're recognizing that that is not a useful resource.
Absolutely.
I was a spanker growing up, maybe like 5 to 10 times throughout my son's life.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It was more the threat of, hey, this shit is about to get crazy.
Yeah.
And I very rarely had to do it. If I had a kid right now,
you'd ramp it up, right?
I would. I'm a lot stronger now. Yeah. So I feel like I could do more damage, you know?
I could use one son to beat the other.
All right, now straighten out your body like a baseball bat, and I'm going to pick you up. No, I don't think that I would be a spanker. Yeah. I think that my son now, and I wonder, maybe we're off on an entirely different subject.
Okay, that's what these things are for. They're called Kook Alerts for a reason.
We like to roll through here. We have a mutual respect established. But I wonder if that's because there's a foundation of, yo, this guy's fucking crazy. I probably don't want to piss him off.
Well, I think that I know that there absolutely has to be consequences when raising a kid. There has to be consequences and that's kind of the problem right now, where we see so very often people that I know in my own personal life where they tell their kid where it's like, hey, if you do that again, I'm going to blank.
Name them?
No, I'm going to blank. And then they do it again and nothing happens.
There is no blank.
And you're teaching your kid where it's like, hey, as long as you keep doing it, you'll eventually win.
If you don't respect your parents, you will never respect anybody.
That's right.
I see kids in the grocery store going crazy and I'm like, that kid is going to steal my car one day.
Sure. And we're right back to empathy. It's hard to learn empathy when there are zero consequences. If you as a person growing up...
Explain that to me. I'm interested in what you just said.
If you as a person are growing up and you're very young and you're not being taught that there are consequences for our actions, then how can you possibly feel empathy for what somebody is going through if you have never gone through anything?
Okay. So if there's never been any negative reaction to the things that you do are wrong, how can you recognize somebody's negative reaction? Is that what you're saying?
Or how can you understand, hey, this person, let's take it to a very adolescent level. This person just got put in timeout. I can't feel empathy for that person because I never get put in timeout. My parents don't do shit to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think even coming into this, and I say this 100% real, I don't know that I fully understand empathy. I don't mean that I don't exhibit it. I don't mean that I don't feel it. I don't know that I totally understand the full spectrum of what it means and what it is. As we're sitting here talking, I'm recognizing that.
Yeah, it's simply understanding what somebody else is going through because you yourself have been through it.
Okay.
If you've never been through it, but you just feel badly for the person, sympathy. That is sympathy.
Okay, check.
Yeah.
I have the desire to be more empathetic and tell me if I'm in the right vein here. Assigning the same attention and assigning the same thought process when it's not you. When you're saying, hey, this isn't happening to me, but what would this feel like if it was me? And then reacting to that.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. How would
I'm learning.
How would I feel if I was in that person's position?
I have empathy for myself right now.
Good. That's excellent. Everybody needs empathy for themselves because we can only exhibit as much empathy to others that we feel for ourselves.
I said that as a joke and you just blew my mind, Tyler. You just blew my mind because I think maybe the person that I have the least amount of empathy for on this planet has 2 thumbs. Oh wait, there's an audio medium.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
It's me.
He's pointing to himself, ladies and
Very
gentlemen.
with both thumbs. I think very often I don't extend myself empathy. I think very often I react to myself in ways that, if I really get down to it, are not true.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good acknowledgement on your part.
I just learned something.
There you go.
It hurts. This is why I stopped doing it.
Oh, those 3 violin lessons I took 3 years ago are gone. I can only fill up so much room in my head, and now those are gone. Thanks a lot.
Now what do I do with the Stradivarius, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's so very important, and I think it's something, as we said at the very beginning of this episode, it's so very important to acknowledge, because these are not the things that make headlines. The things that make headlines are violence, they're sex, they're negativity. So we need to remind people, and most importantly, remind ourselves, that there are so many good, empathetic, sympathetic people out there. Period.
That has been lost in the shuffle. And I will tell you this. I was just recently somewhere where the local news was on. That's still on. Did you know that?
Yeah.
The local news was on in the background. And I was shocked at what came on. It was a string of disasters and just... It seemed almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch. I did not believe it. And it's funny because you said earlier, and I was going to bring it up, but I didn't want to derail us. There was a video of a man in a backyard holding a pit bull up and just punching it in the face in a way that was
crazy.
I mean, stopped the whole what was going on around it, and everybody shielded their face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The idea that just the worst of us is what gets people's attention is, I think, how empathy gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, it is the news equivalent of doom scrolling, as we do on social media, where every time you scroll up one more, there's another negative story about
supply and demand, baby.
Somebody being a piece of shit. And
that's what people want, seemingly.
yes, I see both sides of the argument where, yes, people do clamor for it. There is absolutely no question about it. But there's also the fact that that is lizard brain shit, where it triggers something in our brains. It's a survival mechanism. When we see it, it activates those chemicals in us, and then we become addicted to them. And we're surrounded by this shit. Social media, news, everything. It's what people are talking about. Jesus, people.
It's what the kids are talking about. It's
frustrating.
But listen, if these news sources could get clicks, could get eyeballs reporting a kitten saved from tree, they would do it. Yeah. I don't think they're in the business of making people feel bad. I think they're in the business of getting eyeballs and clicks.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's like I saw, for some reason, they play the fucking news at my gym. I hate it. Fox News right next to CNN.
Dude,
I hate you both.
Nothing gets me more pumped up than Cavuto. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy just gets me just balls to the wall.
Yeah, and CNN is right in front of me, and I do everything I can not to glance at it, but my eyes wander. I'm looking around, and I look up at the TV, and we're entering hurricane season. It's every year that goes by, it becomes genuinely scarier and scarier as we enter this time.
Is it scarier and scarier, or is that the way that they're reporting it?
I think both.
Okay.
I think both. The hurricanes are getting stronger. And we have real reason to fear.
Not the football team.
But the news are not getting any better with it.
That Phil Ferro is a straight up terrorist. That man needs to be arrested. He is just trafficking in your deepest, darkest fears. That cone of danger just keeps getting wider and wider.
Utterly
baby.
ridiculous.
Brought to you by Home Depot and Publix.
That's exactly right. And now we're entering hurricane season, and guess what they're advertising? 9 p.m. this Friday night, Scary Earth. And they're just showing natural disasters.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, Phil Ferro, you piece of shit.
Are you just throwing out your bona fides of the CNN news anchors you know?
I don't think there is a CNN news anchor.
You know what I'm fucking talking about.
I just wanted to shame you so I didn't have to answer your question.
More bona fides. I don't feel empathy for that.
He is our local weatherman, and he should be tarred and feathered in the local square because what he's doing is trafficking in our fears. Yeah. It's what gets you to tune in because, oh, wait, how am I going to die tonight?
That's exactly right.
I have no empathy for you, Phil Ferro. I do appreciate the alliteration, though.
Sure. And what's the main advertiser for your station? Oh, Home Depot and Publix? That's fucking quite a coincidence.
The place where they're going to gouge you on water in plywood when these hurricanes that probably aren't going to show up.
Yeah, or I don't know what you mean by gonna gouge you. You're fucking gouging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the perfect opportunity to feel empathy for those people. I understand you're a dick and a monster and a total shithead.
I have empathy for you being a dick.
But I also want to feel empathy for you. I don't at the moment, but I want to feel empathy.
But let me make this more show specific, okay? When we talk about Kim Il-jong, when we talk about...
You're doing this again, huh?
Well, I
go ahead.
believe what
Go
it
ahead.
is that I'm saying. And not only do I believe it in my heart, but I want to be this person. When I have empathy for this person, Kim Il-jong, or however you say his name, who was born into this family that is godlike, that is deity-like, that has never taken a poop, and you're brainwashed into that. I have empathy for that person. Now, are you doing all the terrible things? Yes. Do I want for you to stop doing those terrible things? Yes. Do I hope that you have to pay for your crimes against humanity? Yes. But I also, as a human being, feel sorry for you.
Yeah, that's sympathy. You don't know what it's like to be godlike and rule
Tyler.
and rule your own country.
Oh, and not to ever poop. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. It's
Yeah.
empathy.
Yeah,
but I don't go broadcasting it. I don't show my anuslessness to the world. I keep it to myself. I mean, it's coming out here because I think it could be a teaching moment.
Sure. How not to poop.
I can't help notice that there's no timer up at the top ticking. Is that an issue?
That's a very good point. I thought I hit the button, but for whatever reason,
No, it
didn't.
did a thing where it timed out, but you know what? We just won't have video for this one.
Yeah, screw it.
That's how life be being sometimes. I have empathy for us.
Yeah, real sympathy. Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much it. Is yes.
Wait, because I stopped you and you didn't respond to my question.
I do want to feel sympathy for these people, and that's the divide between the two things, where it's like I feel sympathy because you were born into this situation. This is all you've ever known. However, at the other side of it, you're committing atrocious acts.
Agreed. And
against humanity.
there's never been a point where I am disagreeing with what you're saying. I would like to be very clear.
Be very clear.
I do not agree with those. Okay, I'm not even going to bring up any more names.
No. Finish your thought.
Obama.
Obama. What?
I was going to say Osama. Again, he did the wrong things. I don't agree with anything that any of these people have done.
I'm confused. Obama or Osama? Who are we talking about?
Those are different people? So anyway.
And we've done another show yet again.
Yeah, I apologize for that. But I'm just saying I want to be someone that no matter how heinous your crimes, you have been on this show talking about your sympathy or empathy, I'm still not sure, for child molesters. Have you not?
I would like to be very clear about that.
We don't have any more time. Thanks so much. You heard those guys you hate.
I have sympathy for the people who are born thinking and feeling those things.
The mental health
aspect of
defect.
it. The demons of it.
Sure.
I don't for the people who act on them. The people who go through with those acts.
Okay,
what they are saying is my need to fulfill this perverse thought process
that's going to destroy someone's life
is more important to me than the life of a literal child. So there are people right now, God only knows how many, that go through life feeling those feelings, suffering with them, but never acting on them because they don't want to ruin a life. Those are the people that I have sympathy for.
It's very strange.
Sympathy, by the way, not empathy. Sympathy, by the way.
I don't know. We're going to have to look into this one. But it's very strange because there are very few crimes that we are as stringent against as pedophilia, as child molesters, but also we try to turn all the women in our society into children. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's a very strange balancing act that we do as a society. But I'm going to corner you here. Do you think child molesters should be put in jail, that they should be put into Gen Pop, or do you think that they should be put into a mental institution to be worked on? Also never released.
Yeah.
But what is, I'm really cornering you here, so.
No, that's actually, now that I think about it, a pretty easy answer. I don't think that they should be put in Gen Pop, because if we're putting them in Gen Pop, we're pretty much just saying, here you go, people, kill this person.
Oh yeah.
And I don't believe in the death penalty, so I don't agree with that.
We're saying Gen Pop, like I said, clapback.
I know.
It's coming way too casual.
Like we know.
Yeah.
But I do think that they need to be removed from society forever, because that person can no longer be trusted.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting idea, because if you are 4'11", heavy set, balding white man and you know what child molestation getting caught, what that is going to mean for you. And the fact that you can't control those urges, it says a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
I refuse to use the term can't control those. You can control those emotions.
That's
There are so many steps that you can take to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Just watch hentai.
Or that may make it worse, to be honest with you. A lot of those characters are drawn to look very young, and
she's 1,000 years old,
it's
Tyler.
disconcerting.
Yeah.
It's disconcerting.
I got to go get rid of a body pillow. I'll be right back. Bury it in the yard.
Sure. Yeah, and so I guess we could just end the episode with my final thought being that remember that there are so many degrees of empathy when we trying to learn and use it more. So know that the most difficult is when we're in a rage, and to be able to use empathy in those moments is kind of like the tippy whippy top of empathy, where it's like, I am rageful. You have just done something to me that is horrible. There is a famous case of a murderer killing a parent's child, and the father reading a pre-written note in court saying, I forgive you.
There's many cases of that.
Sure. And that is, I think, an example of one of the greatest levels of empathy that can be given. Like, yes. I forgive you. You've taken my world from me, and I still forgive you.
But wait a minute. What if somebody argues, and I don't mean to step on your closing point here. What if somebody argues you're doing that for yourself? You're forgiving that person because of the toxins that it releases from you.
Yeah, that's what empathy is. We do empathy for us, not for anybody else.
Wait, Tyler,
when we forgive.
You didn't tell me empathy was for me. Why didn't
Does that make it better?
Why didn't you tell me that? I would have done this a long time ago.
That's what forgiveness is. When we forgive, it's not for the other person, it's for us.
We are burying the lead here. I didn't realize empathy was selfish. I would have been doing this a long time ago.
That's the message of the show.
I love it.
Be selfish and empathize.
Also volunteer work. It's really for you. It feels great, man.
It's actually true.
I know. I really struggle with that.
So remember that there are different levels of empathy, and just because we can't reach that tippy top of empathy whenever somebody does something wrong to us, as long as we're headed in that direction, as long as we're doing our best.
You're training those muscles.
To empathize. That is correct.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think we did a nice little thing here.
Definitely.
I think we touched on 50 different subjects, and hopefully they all funnel back into empathy.
Yeah, I hope this made sense.
If not, have empathy for us. We're just, we're two, middling white men just trying to make it in this crazy world.
So tough. Any final thoughts, any final sayings you'd like to get out there?
I genuinely feel like I learned something here, which I try to avoid, but we are here. And I appreciate it. This show, I think, is built on the foundation, number one, of our love for one another. And number two, you are very well versed in a lot of these things that I'm just trying to discover on my own. And I hope I don't go to that well too much, because maybe I overstate it sometimes. But you have learned these things from a teacher in a way that I have not. And it's very beneficial to me, because I don't want to pay that money, dog.
I don't think
I have empathy for my bank account.
Sure. Even though it's free, I'm not entirely sure you're getting your money's worth.
No, Tyler, I think you're underselling yourself, where you come with a lot of really great information. And it's not that you are, you've mastered all of these things, but you have a lot of great and dynamic information. And for that, I salute you. Don't sell yourself short, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are those guys you hate.
Be kind. And also go to thoseguysyouhate.com, check in on all of this stuff, link up with us, push forward. Because I think that while hopefully, like I said, our love for each other and our relationship that's the key to any show, to anything that brings people interest. We're really striving to be better. We're not just saying these things. We're doing them off camera and off mic in our own hopefully special way. And we want you guys to be part of it, and we want to bring other people in on it.
Without a doubt. And if you want to love us, be sure to click on those links and subscribe.
We are those guys you hate.
Be kind, or we'll kill you.